allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the agenda. Is there any additions to the agenda?
No, you got corrected packets, but they're all up ahead of time, so.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make the motion to approve the agenda.
Okay. Second. Okay, motion by Charlie, second by Scott. To approve the agenda as presented, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Motion carries. Next, we have the consent agenda items, which includes the accounts payable and claims, minutes from the February 13th, 2025 meeting, and the financials. Everyone's had a chance to look them over. Any questions? Or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Okay. Motion by John, second by Charlie to approve the consent agenda items. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye also. Motion carries. Next we have public comment. We've got 3 minutes to speak if you would like. Is there anyone that would like to speak?
Sure, I'll speak. My name is Daniel Petzinger. I find it kind of interesting on how last meeting at the end of the agenda that the city was not making a decision but said that we would have a continued conversation, and however I'm not on the agenda for this meeting. One would assume that when you mentioned that you wanted to continue a conversation, that it would be in an open meeting as such, not behind closed doors. And it seems pretty funny that I'm still not on the agenda. So I would ask the city council to reapprove my addition to the agenda so that I can properly be heard as far as radio link internet and the use of the water tower. Because that had not had a decision at the last meeting.
I believe we cannot see that's under litigation.
The water tower is not under litigation. And like you said during my public hearing on my grass, it has nothing to do with the water tower and the use of
I
it.
think in your filing, though, you mentioned that the water tower, I guess you did.
I can mention whatever I want in there, and
Once you do, then you tie our hands.
well, then I'm going to have to then file a motion for restraining order against the city if you're unwilling to have a conversation concerning my continual use, because you guys are refusing to have a further conversation about it. There is no other choice that I have, because if the city's unwilling to have a conversation as what was stated at the last meeting, and you are stating that because it was brought up in a pleading that you guys are refusing to respond to it as far as continuing on the conversation in an open meeting that was discussed before, then I have no other choice but to file for a temporary restraining order against the city until the litigation is done, so that we can then continue on a conversation about it. And the thing is I don't want this. Here's where my problem is, right? I'm not trying to do anything negative as far as the business on the water tower. Been here for 15 years. Scott Swanson reached out to me with some additional questions, and I said I would be much obliged to have an open conversation at the next meeting. And I'm not on the agenda.
It has to be on the agenda?
It was assumed at the last council meeting that you can't make a decision today and we're going to have a continued conversation. And to me, that is implied that we'll have a continued conversation in an open meeting.
But in December, we passed that your contract is done, right?
No, you said
We're not gonna renew it.
The problem with that is that I was not ever able to talk about any of it prior to your motion. And you have a conflict of interest here from Joel Meyer that not only made the motion, but made the motion before the mayor was done speaking about the motion. And therefore, it's a conflict of interest because your council member and I have a conflict about the exact communication that's going on. And so, unfortunately, this brings up a whole nother host of problems. And all I wanted to do was to deal with the business separate than my personal stuff. But unfortunately, because if you look at,
Your time is up, I'm sorry. Your 3 minutes.
okay, well, I would suggest that you look at 152.219 subsection E that says that you must co-locate on public facilities. Co-locate on public facilities. It says it right in there.
But not structures. But not structures.
Here, would anybody else like to speak?
I would. I'd like to say that, since you voted on this in December, that as a citizen, I think I should be able to assume that you voted on it, you meant it, and it's a done deal. You are under no obligation to provide a private business with access to public property.
I made a couple of copies of this I'll give to Steve for council members. So we can hand it in beforehand, but I also have a couple of copies for the general public. And if I could get that to him before I start my time.
This is gonna hand out to the council.
Yeah, that's why I'm giving it there and putting these copies on. No, that's federally against the law, you guys.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, and if you want to
Well-
challenge me, I'm more than happy to.
I'll
Okay.
challenge you.
Yeah,
but
you challenge me, you're
right
king.
to the state, so it won't get handed out to the next meeting.
All right, I'm not gonna do this and call this in 5 minutes. Let me know when I can start. Or 3 minutes, sorry. Okay. I'd like to give you a demonstration, and no ma'am, I did hear that. I will not sit my ass down. The general public and the council can see with their own eyes, having 20/20 vision rather than hindsight on today's demonstration on what is bias, harassment, conflict of interest, or discrimination. I just offered to the council through the city clerk and put on the public table spreadsheets that demonstrate, using the city council's own agenda and meeting minutes, the coding and zoning violations that go back 3 years in this city. They are broken down by address, although I assert that Steve Engel leaves out exact addresses at sometimes and does so deliberately, and I'll let you guess why. And he even leaves out what the complaint is, or what portions have or have not been abated. Statute 1303 specifically requires that the government must maintain accurate and complete records requiring enough detail to inform individuals about the action taken and specific violations at their locations. Now let's look at some egregious conduct and misconduct by this council and their bias, discrimination, and harassment. Apologies to the couple new people that weren't here for most of this. Compare on the spreadsheet, if you will, the actions against Dan Petzinger. Their aggressive behavior and enforcement against him versus others who have unabated violations going on now for 3 years that have not been fined, or their fines are paid and their conditions are not corrected, but they're not hauled into court. I know that the council members individually have disdain for Mr. Petzinger because how dare he not fall into immediate compliance and bow down to the holy city council, even if he's trying to demonstrate to you that what you're doing is illegal and immoral. It's all fine and dandy to use him as a scapegoat until something happens to you, and then you as a city member are going to be looking for help. Jaguar and Metronet have been allowed to violate and not be in compliance with their conditional use permit and zoning since 2008. This council is very well aware of that. But more importantly, since June 24 complaint to this council, no real action has been taken. They were not given 7 days to comply like Mr. Petzinger was. Have they received administrative citations? I'll answer that. The answer is no. Have they been fined? I'll answer that also because the city council generally doesn't like to answer during public comment. No, they've not been fined. Have they even been hauled into a public hearing? Again, I'll answer it for you. The answer is no. Did Jaguar or Metronet even yet respond to the written complaint from the city council? Your agenda tonight will confirm that they have not. Did they get threatening follow-up letters from the city attorney? I'll answer that too. No. Now, what was the demonstration? Bias, harassment, and prejudicial behavior. Let me bring it home for you right now. 3 different council members visited a project recently where Jaguar and Metronet were moving off Mr. Petzinger's property. You'll never believe this one. It's on a council member's personal R1 residential property. That's where they moved to. They even testified in court to that fact.
Thank
So
you.
no permits, no conditional use permits, no public hearings about them moving either, right? That's the definition of discrimination and bias and harassment.
Anyone else would like to speak? All right, we're gonna move on to reports. Mr. Busher,
Hello, sir.
nice to see you.
How you doing tonight?
Just fine. Report?
That's bad.
Good.
I guess, do you want to start with the building, Steve?
Sure.
So Steve asked a couple questions to Apex, and they just got back to us yesterday, today. He asked about the approaches to the building, and they have them priced as gravel. I don't know if you saw that. And then that tank he asked about was already in there. But the guy we've been dealing with just got back from vacation. I haven't seen anything on the bid yet, so I'm sure he's a little behind just getting back. I would hope it wouldn't be too much longer. He figured he'd have it by today, but I don't know if he's still waiting on bids or.
You think it'd be beneficial if we just put that out there for bids? We can do that, right?
He's
doing it.
Yep.
The subcontract.
He put it out.
I'm just talking the whole thing.
This is getting ridiculous trying to get bids out of them.
Joel, you've only been dealing with it for a year. We've been dealing with it for 7.
I realize
And
that.
that's the bad thing is that, you know, this is like the 3rd or 4th time we bid it. So some of these companies are probably sick of bidding it, you know. So, I mean, I would think pretty quick here we should have it. So
Should we give 1 more month then, or
I would think so. I would think even before then we should have it. So
probably you're gonna get to the point where we're gonna fill up for the summer?
yeah. And that's the bad thing. But as soon as we get it, I can forward along to Steve and.
Okay. So you guys, anybody can comment up here? Or?
Well, I made my comment last month that I wanted to see bids tonight and that still ain't happened. So,
Well, we're right down to the brass tacks of it. I mean, for how far we've come and how much work Steve's put into it. I mean, we are right down to the end, basically.
Are we gonna have a special meeting if they come in, because otherwise it's a month?
That's what we talked about last month. Was once they come in, then we could do a special meeting.
You got anything? Or you
Just the email back, because I'm gonna sure you include the concrete for the driveways in it. You won't have gravel down there.
Okay.
And then pop up in the plumber, you know, question when the plug it we had in the hall about having, PCA requires a, tank, they're gonna wash, you know, for truck washing and so forth, he's got that included in there.
Okay.
Anything else on the building?
No, I would, if you get a hold of, I just tell them, we need to know
Sure.
soon.
I'll send him an email tonight.